when I played in NHL on the PlayStation, there's really a part of the game where you can press triangle, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you drop
You
gloves,
can
and
fight.
then you can
Yeah.
throw. Yeah, you can throw punches. So it's not really it's really part of the game in that case, right?
Um. Yeah, that's a no. That's a big misconception, though.
Hi everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of the Sports Season podcast, where we get to know the sports that you know about and those that you should know about. For this episode, we're going to get to know how a winter sport has survived in this tropical country as we get to know as we take it to the ice and get to know ice hockey. Our guest for today is a former member of the Philippine national hockey team, a gold and silver medalist in the past two SEA Games, another former classmate of mine, Mr. Javi Cadiz. What's up, Havs? Thanks for guesting today.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we've been in quarantine. We've been on lockdown for what is it, 8 going on 9 months now. What have you been up to over these past it's not even few past months.
Uh, yeah. I mean, it was definitely rough at first because you're used to going to the gym and stuff and working out with your teammates, especially like that was like a hard adjustment. But yeah. So the first few months, I was just like really picking out and like because this is like the first time like our family has really had so much time together, and like
Yeah.
we're kind of having a hard time like, or at the start we're having a hard time sort of getting everyone sort of like cravings down. So we'd have like a bunch of food for everyone, and yeah. So I really like I gained weight at the start, and but yeah, I mean like after a couple months, like we got used to things, and then you got your like everyone has their own schedules, and like we're able to sort of portion each other's food and stuff. So yeah, I mean there's been a routine like the past few months that's been pretty
Mhm.
good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were mentioning that you haven't been going like it was a struggle going to the gym without going to the gym. I guess I'm not sure, but there are a lot of sports that have started to resume. I know the NHL was one of the most successful ones. I saw your posts. You seem pretty happy with the results.
Yeah. Go
Um,
Tampa. Yeah.
so I wanted to ask then like what's the situation right now with hockey, the hockey scene in the Philippines? Like have you gotten to play ever since the lockdown started?
Um, no, so like actually, since all the rinks in the Philippines are handled by SM, all all skating, all hockey, all that stuff has been like put to a pause for now. And I think it's good because like you don't know the disease, like especially with something
Mm.
like hockey where you bump each other all the time.
Yeah.
It's like you can just like bump someone and then like cough on them. So yeah, I mean like
Yeah.
yeah. So no one's been able to skate. Like I mean, I think what players have been doing like here is just like practicing stick handling and stuff with like a just their stick, their gloves, and like a ball. And then if some of my teammates do have goals at home, so they're able to like shoot like actual pucks into the net. So that's a good practice. But yeah, actual skating there's been none.
Okay, this is, I'm not sure if this would come off as a silly question, but I was talking to my friends about what I should ask about hockey, and then they were bringing up how like what can you do right now if you don't have a rink? Because I mean, just in general, like it's not as accessible as a lot of other sports are, especially here in the country. Like I know in obviously in the winter countries, they have like public rinks and stuff like that. um
Yeah.
so how would you I guess how would you practice, especially now that the rinks aren't accessible at all? Would like roller skating, I don't know if you know rocket power, but that's what they would
Yeah.
do. But like
I
is
mean
it like the
that's
same?
no, so roller skate. I mean similar mechanics, but like in terms of like the sort of foundational like stopping and
Mm,
the stride, it's different. Like I have a hard time roller skating even though I can skate pretty decently. So
okay.
um yeah, I mean in terms of practice, some guys who happen to have picked up roller skating before, like they're able to practice through that. I mean it's the best you can get at this point.
Yeah.
But in terms of training the same muscle groups, like there are a lot of resources you can find online actually from credible sources that like they give you the right exercises so that you don't I mean like it's not exactly the same as skating, but
Yeah, yeah.
at least you're not gonna lose the power completely. um Honestly, for me, like, it sounds silly, but I find that playing NHL helps a lot because, like, I mean, if you play like a video game, obviously it's not gonna do anything, but if you actually practice positioning and like don't do all the tricks and stuff, but actually practice plays and like, no, sorry, but you actually practice plays, like, you can actually get a lot from it. Like, video games, I find, like, for sports can be a tool that is useful.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. Like that's how parang especially now like 2K is like the best I can get in terms of
Yeah.
basket. Okay. So I wanted to start it out like I like starting out with like kind of like the an introduction to the sport. But in general this sport ice hockey seems kind of like a quick pickup. I don't know if you would agree. Do you think like someone can pick it up pretty easily? I mean, obviously, let's like the skating itself might be a little difficult, but like the rules of the game, would you say that it's a pretty quick pickup?
uh, this is in terms of, like, as a viewer, I guess, right? Or are you
Yeah, yeah,
saying in
yeah.
terms? Oh,
I guess both. Like for example, if I was to watch a game, like NHL, if I went to an NHL game, would I be able to like, okay, I get it now? You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I think um like, if you're just watching a game, like, it's not so difficult because it's pretty straightforward. Like, it's kind of similar to basketball in the sense that instead of, like, out of bounds, like, you have, like, the goalie who freezes the puck, which is like a pause and play. So, and then you restart, like, it's like a throw in, kumbaga.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty. It's more of, I think the only difficult thing to pick up would be penalties, because there are, like, a whole bunch
Mm,
of different penalties that one can acquire throughout the game, and then um, it's also like some of the rules are open to, I mean, like, in basketball, like, or in football, like, it's open to interpretation of the ref. So, like,
yeah, yeah.
he could see it one way, and if you're watching it for the first time, you'll be like, really, that was this
Mm,
call? Or like, that was like a charge, for example. Like, I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know.
Okay, okay. That's a good example.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, it's like, it's hard. Like, I think it would be good if you were gonna watch, like, a hockey game for the first time, to have, like, a friend that maybe knows a bit more,
Mm,
or at least do a little bit of research prior.
yes.
But yeah, I mean, like, I
Yeah, yeah.
definitely feel like for any first time viewer, it's a really fun sport to watch just because it's so different. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, no, because I had guests. I had Javi for baseball, and I had Theas and Rosa for netball. And I really like the start of the interview. I really had to ask them kind of like to give a gist of the sport, because I feel like, especially like for baseball, I really parang you kind of start wondering like what's happening when while
Yeah.
you're watching. So lalo na when you actually try to play it, you know. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do some research now on hockey, and then there's some like in general, like you kind of get it. It's like okay, six per side, hit the puck into the goal to score.
Yep.
But there are some rules that kind of caught my eye. Like I was kind of like wondering what it means. So first, I wanted to get some clarifications on those.
Yeah,
Um,
for
for
sure.
example, first there is a rule about like a field player catching the puck.
Oh, what did it state exactly? I mean, like,
Something
or
like
what was your
like you
understanding of it?
because it said like if you catch the puck, you have to put it down like agad.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty
So
much it.
technically
So
you can, right?
uh so the rule is that you can't throw it, or like, if you catch it, it has
It's
to
drop.
stay in the same place as you.
Okay,
Like, you can't make it move anywhere.
gets.
Yeah, and it's the
Okay,
same with hand passes, like, on the ice. Like, let's say, for example, you fell on the ground, and then, or you fell on the ice, and then the puck's, like, right beside you. You can't just push it
okay,
somewhere. Yeah, you really have to use your stick, otherwise it's a penalty.
okay.
Yeah.
And you guys also have some sort of offside. I don't really understand because like it took me a while to understand the football one. So
Well,
how
this
does
one's
it
more
work in
simple.
hockey?
so there are two blue lines. Like there's a center circle, and then there are two blue lines. And basically, if you're crossing the line, you have to have the puck in front of you, and that means
Okay.
anyone in your team as well. So you can't have someone your teammate pass the blue line while you're like still have the puck here. It's
Okay.
basically so like
Okay.
I mean like in football, so you can't get a disadvantage. I mean like the opponent isn't at a disadvantage.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like no,
Yeah,
no cherry picking, kind of like that. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Okay. That last one, this one, like from the start, palang, and when I asked my friends, then like, what should I ask about hockey? This is like the one thing that stood out. Okay, so this one part of the game, I always thought it was like, for example, in basketball and football, there's physicality. But it gets heated and players, get
Yeah,
technical fouls, they get thrown out. So I thought, okay, that's basically parang in any sport where, it gets like tempers rise. But
yeah,
um what's this called? It's like when I played in NHL on the PlayStation, there's really a part of the game where you can press triangle and
yeah,
then
yeah.
you drop
You
gloves
can
and
fight.
then you can
Yeah.
throw, yeah, you can throw punches. So it's not really, it's really part of the game in that case, right?
Um. Yeah, that's a big misconception though, because like in the NHL, it is for sure it's allowed. I don't
Okay, okay.
understand the full reason why, but if you look at the European leagues and even like our tournaments, like if you fight, you're suspended a couple of games.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't
But
like. I mean, I get why it's part of the NHL. Like, um, or I get why players like it. It's because like it helps increase the tempo and like a lot of people get pumped up from it. But I don't super understand why the NHL, like as an organization, is fine with it happening.
okay,
I guess
but
it's
like let's
maybe
say,
the
sorry, go ahead.
oh sorry no I mean I guess maybe it's just to like get more fans, because it's kind of like in terms of professional sport, it's kind of like in the middle or below, yeah, in terms of popularity. So I guess like the fights are like, ooh, what's this,
Yeah,
MMA on
no,
ice.
because even even in like movies when they show the NHL, it's a lot of that. I mean, understandably, it's a contact sport. Like you guys have the pads and everything, so that there's gonna
Yeah,
be bumping, there's gonna be crashing into the walls. But
yeah.
I found that interesting with the video game. Um so because so it's only in the NHL that they have those like penalty boxes. Tama ba? That's what it's
um
called, right? When
no,
they
no,
fight.
that's in all leagues. The penalty
Okay.
boxes, so even if you get like a or like for example the penalty you mentioned earlier, you pick up the puck and let's say you throw it somewhere, you'll get a penalty like 2 minutes in the box. It's like a timeout
Okay.
box if
Yeah. So
kumbaga,
in that
yeah.
case, is it like in football where you're really down a man, or you just put someone else in?
You'll only be down that particular player for the amount of time that the ref says. So it's either 2 or 5.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
But you're so from the five field players, you go down to four. You can't just sub anyone
yeah.
else in. Okay. Um.
Well, that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go.
Oh no, like So what happens is you have a penalty kill unit. So if you get like a 2 minute penalty, you got like typically a team will have like two lines of 4 players, like two forwards, two D, and then they'll be assigned to kill the penalty. And then it's usually like like it's usually like they're really assigned for that role, and they're typically not the ones who really get penalties a lot. So yeah, and they're the more defensively
Okay.
minded. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So you said, yeah, that this basically only happens in NHL. But okay, when like if I talk about the NBA, you can see how big an influence it has on basically every other league, especially here in the Philippines. When you talk about NHL, uh, us understanding that it doesn't actually, like, it's only allowed there. Does it happen? Like, does it? I'm sure it happens once in a while here in the Philippines in
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
leagues.
no, it has. Yeah, it's like a couple, but it's mostly the the white guys. Yeah, I mean like it's mostly like how Filipinos are. We're just like, ano ba, dude? They're like, we just get in this. We're just like we get pick on, but we're not really gonna we're just gonna make angas, but we're not gonna do anything naman. Eh.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean like tempers flare, but like in terms of like an actual fight, it's super rare for like a local guy to get into one.
So you
Yeah.
haven't.
Me, no, I haven't. No.
Okay.
I mean like in in tournaments, like I try to get under people's
You.
skin a lot. Like I talk trash, and then I I mess with them a lot, but I've never actually like gotten into a fight on the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I guess one more thing. I found it interesting how you guys do substitutions. It's really like a it's not like a
Full
stop
unit.
game. Yeah, and then you really just swap
Yeah.
in, right? Like it's not like, okay,
Yeah.
guys, timeout, sub. It's like, shit. Let's. I mean, let's. Like everyone
Yeah.
just jumps over the barrier and then they swap in, right?
So it's kind of like I guess you could liken it to basketball where you sub a certain amount of players in, except it's on the fly. So it's while game is
Yeah.
going on, and I guess it's just since hockey is such a fast sport, um, they don't have all these stoppages because there are already so many stoppages between play where penalties and freezing the puck that
Yeah.
you don't want to kill the momentum of the players by that much.
But
Like you want to
okay,
keep
what's
them
the
as energized as possible.
what's the rule with that? Because like, for example, what if like my five guys are on the offensive end and then they kind of like there's a quick counter. Can I just like sub someone in to get on the you know what I mean?
No, so the general rule is that you have to um typically changes are made like the guy has to at least be a couple feet away from the bench. Like he has to be really close. And
Yeah.
the thing is like let's say like your example like you're coming back from a counter attack like people are back checking like to defend the other team. You have to or sorry the the moment that you have six men or you have too many guys on the ice and you touch the puck, your team touches the puck, you're gonna get a penalty.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All right.
yeah.
Okay, so now that we got through, I guess a little bit more of the basics, I wanted to kind of get into you and your career. I guess first, how did you start? What made you get into hockey of all sports?
So it actually just it all started with my older brothers. So, my or it more of started with my dad. My dad grew up in Europe. He grew up in Germany. He played all these different sports. His main sports though was never. I mean, his main sport was never hockey. It was tennis and basketball. But he did play hockey recreationally. And then when he had my brothers, yeah, they're much older than me. They're 7 and 9 years older than me, respectively. And when they were growing up, they had like a ton of allergies. Like they were allergic to grass and like dirt and dust and all that stuff. So
Okay.
my dad was like, "Shoot, like how am I gonna get them into any sport? Like everything's like, well, they can't play basket because there's dust and dirt on the court, and then football is like no brainer because like there's grass, and then." So he thought, oh, he saw the rink in South Mall because we live in the South, in SM South Mall, and then he was like, why not have them try this? I think there was a Milo camp or something where they were having hockey, like introductory hockey lessons, and then yeah, but the thing with that was like my dad didn't super like how they were teaching hockey because it was super different from how he learned it.
Okay.
So parang he ended up coaching uh like as a like in his free time he'd coach like us and then he'd coach like different people who wanted to try out and stuff. So yeah, I mean since they were already playing, like I was born into the sport basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um. All right. So, but I know, we were classmates like from a young age, and obviously in high school, like the whole almost the whole of high school. So,
Yeah.
I brought this up with the past with the other Athenians or other batchmates that I've been able to interview, and there's obviously the general consensus that basketball was like the biggest sport. Football definitely a close second, especially for us. Um, um, and I know that you played a lot of football also. So what kind of,
Yeah.
I guess, what was it about hockey that kind of stuck? Like, why didn't you gravitate a lot more towards football, or like you did, but like hockey was always there? You know what I mean?
Uh, yeah. I mean, no. I think definitely in high school, just because I didn't get to play hockey as much. Like football, I was playing like every day. I was definitely gravitating a lot more towards football at the time. It's just that I was better at hockey. I couldn't. It's not like I could make the football team. I'm not Harvey Gayoso, you know. So I was like, I have no future in this sport. Might as well focus on hockey. And yeah, I mean,
Okay.
like as soon as the opportunities came, like that's when it really got big for me in my life, at least.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of curious then about, because it's a lot easier to try all these other sports. Football, from aside from the fact that everyone in class was playing it, aside from the fact that
Yeah.
it's a lot more accessible. How were you able to, I guess, manage that? Parang it's not you can't practice it in school. I guess the closest we got was we had floorball for PE at one time. But
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Parang it's not like, I don't know if you were still able to train every day. Was it just
Yeah.
weekends? How was the dynamic with this sport that isn't so recognized, I guess, in the country?
Yeah. So like when I was growing up, yeah, hockey was definitely like in my life at least, it was like a recreational sport. Like I didn't take it super seriously, because like I just couldn't train that much. And even though I love the sport, it was like um, it was sort of in the background to an extent. Like other things became more of a priority.
Mm.
Like football, for example, I liked a lot, and then like everyone was getting into gymming and stuff at the
Yeah.
time, so that became like a thing for me. But yeah, I mean, like hockey at the time was like sort of just like yeah, it's something I play, but
Yeah.
it's not all it's not really the main thing in my life. Yeah, so it was definitely hard. Like, I wished like at the time I took it more seriously and tried to find more ways to get better, because it was really like once the opportunities to play for the national team came, and like once I saw how all these kids were like they were so good now, and then like the gap between the skill was, I mean, it wasn't like they weren't like NHL players though, but they were pretty good. Like for their age, I was like, dang, like I wish I was that good when I was your age. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Glad you brought that up, because I wanted, could you give us like a glimpse of what the hockey community is like here in the country? Because it, understandably, I'm sure it's not huge because it's a winter sport, in a tropical country. How does that survive, or like what is the community like? What is the um like, aside from the national team, obviously I'm pretty sure there are smaller leagues, there are smaller communities. What's it like?
Yeah. So actually, I'd say about maybe half of the whole hockey, because I think we're almost 200 total like
Okay.
skaters. So the hockey community is a bit more than that. Like just considering that you have the parents and stuff like of all these kids, and then their management and stuff like that. But yeah, in terms of like the hockey community itself, like all the skaters, like around half would be like expats, like people who just like come here
Mm,
for work and then they happen to play hockey. And then yeah, some of them have stayed for like a good number of years. Like I know there are maybe around 10 that I've seen since I was like a kid, and they're still here like
yeah.
working in like different companies. Yeah. Um but yeah, I mean, in terms of like the local community, like it's slowly growing. Uh yeah, I think there were some missed opportunities there where the sport could have grown more, especially when we won like in
Yeah.
2018, like after the Sea Games. I think there were opportunities that were definitely missed. Um, that could have been utilized like for sure. But yeah, it is what it is. Yeah.
Okay. So just to clarify, you guys have like these small what is it like? I remember I watched one of your games before. So is it like do you guys
Yeah.
have these small leagues or is it like what do you call those? Parang every Friday? What's the schedule like with you guys?
Um, yeah, so we have like two leagues right now. We have the what's it? There's the PHL, the Philippine Hockey League, and then the
Hmm.
PMHL, so the Philippine like minor hockey league. But it's really just like for more of so that for like because for the national team, because you need for both men's and women's, you need to have a league for both in order to sort of qualify for
Okay.
the higher divisions. So what happens is, yeah, we have those two leagues, and then the men's and women's teams are both like their own club within that league, and then they just compete with a mix of different expats.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So there's like sort of like a fantasy draft of sorts in like each of those leagues between the other teams.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So with what do you call that? How did you get selected for the national team? Like what was the process like there?
Um, I think because at the time we really didn't have too many players. There was like a tryout period kasi
Okay.
back in 2017, like late 2017 or late 2016. Yeah, sorry, late 2016. There's a tryout period, and then yeah, I think it was just like a little bit over 30 people were there, and then the team is comprised of like around 20, 21 players. So
Mm.
it's not you don't have a lot of people to pick from. So yeah, I mean like um like that was pretty much it. Like you just go through the tryout, couple of practice drills, but nothing too serious just because we were starting out at the time and they kind of had a good idea
Yeah.
of who would make it and who wouldn't. Yeah,
Okay.
just based off
So
of like the league before.
so that was that the first? So the 2016 2017 SEA Games team was what? Was that the first national hockey team of the country?
No, we had a tournament before that.
Okay.
It was the Asian Winter Games, yeah, in Japan. So
Mm.
that was when we had the first tryout, like the a couple months before that.
Okay, okay. But so that was you were already part of that team, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
okay. Okay, so you won a gold and a silver in the SEA Games. Could you, I guess, tell us how that went? Were you guys like expecting like, okay, I think we can, we're probably gonna get a medal, or were you like, yeah, we're gonna win gold?
No, I mean, at least for the one where we won gold, it was definitely a surprise because Thailand um is definitely one of the bigger like Southeast Asian countries. Or no, actually in terms of hockey, they're the biggest one. Like their
Okay.
program is really good. How they develop both their local players, um, and how the expat community is in that country is like wow. Like the program is definitely like something I admire a lot. Even though I'm like really shitty to them in person, like like when we play against them, I'm always like really kupal to them. So yeah, it obviously doesn't show. But yeah, I mean like their system and their program is really something else. Actually, not something else. It's just like as good as the or getting towards the sort of more developed nations.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean like sorry, going back to the topic. Yeah, like that win was um that was a surprise for us. Like I mean we had that sort of hope that we had a certain level of confidence. Like yeah, we could do this, but when we actually did it, was like that's why if you watch like the videos of us celebrating, we were really like NHL, throwing our gloves in the air, throwing our helmets off, even though our gear wasn't labeled and we all had the same. So it's just like, who's this dude? But yeah, I mean, like it was really like pure like joy from everyone, like to have won that because like, and I mean in that tournament, really like credit goes out to like our top lines because Um, as I said, like Thailand has a good had a good program of or has a good program of developing their players. We didn't really have that. Like we relied heavily on our top line, so
Yeah.
credit goes to them, man. Like our team captain, like my brother was part of that line, and then we have this other guy called Paul Sanchez. They really and like and Carl Montano, like those four, like really did a lot, you know, to carry our team. So yeah, like props to them, man. Yeah, I mean not just them, but
Okay.
obviously like the other top lines also.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course, of course. Um,
yeah.
so now that I mean we've shown that we can be successful in the region at least. Do you think I'm not sure what the what the hockey equivalent of like a FIFA World Cup would be, but like, do you think that we can be successful in an even bigger stages?
Um, I think at this point it's really hard to tell. It really depends on the direction that the program goes. Right now, there still have to be like a lot of improvements in terms of like as I said, what I lauded or sorry, what I commended Thailand on, like just developing your players is really like a big thing. I mean, like I think there's a certain level or there's a certain point where you're working really hard and then you're not making major improvements on the ice. So it's the method of training on the ice really matters. And I think that's what Thailand really does well. So I honestly at this point the benchmark should be, those programs in Asia that are doing really well. Thailand,
Mm.
Japan, China, even though China has its political problems, but uh, South Korea, those countries that are really flourishing on the
Yeah.
ice, like those are sort of the ones that you look at more so than like Canada, because within the next 20, 30 years, those are the ones that are more attainable. Yeah, so there definitely is a future. I can see it. Like I can see a lot of the kids here doing really well. If they get their acts together and not think they're all superstars. But yeah, like if the program gets better, I think the team gets better.
Yeah. Okay. No, so I like how you were giving examples of benchmarks, but we can see that I think maybe with the exception of Thailand, these are all countries that winter countries. Um,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. Okay. But so I wanted to get your thoughts on how real not naman realistic. Parang do you think that Filipinos can thrive in the sport in the sense na we're obviously a basketball heavy sport, but we also acknowledge that we lack height. How is there that kind of problem with hockey or if you know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Definitely. I like Caucasians and like Africans. They definitely have those. Like they definitely have that sort of they have that advantage. Sorry. Yeah. So Caucasians and Africans, even like Middle Eastern, have that advantage of height and size. Like it's really like Asians, like we have the talent, but we lack the size. Because I know like even within the team, like there's so many good players, but it's just like their height has been like a problem in terms of like injuries and like, not their height but their size. Like in terms of injuries and just sustainability of play, it's really difficult. So yeah, I mean like that's why I think in terms of like the global in terms of like reaching that top level, it's really difficult because if developed countries like Japan and South Korea are having a hard time doing it already, then it's not so much the talent level or it's not so much the or I mean yeah, it's the talent level also, but size is definitely a big factor in hockey. Like
Okay.
you can have all the talent in the world, but it's just like if you if you can't keep up with them, like if they keep hitting you and you can't do anything,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay. But okay, you were mentioning earlier how yun nga, that there's a lot of kids. Are there like a lot like significantly there's you can see the increase in the amount of the youth getting into hockey, especially compared to when you were younger?
yeah, for sure, dude. Like I remember, like when I was a kid, when I was practicing, like every Saturday it would just be me and three other kids playing. Like that's how few we were at the time. I mean, there are obviously other clubs that had kids there, and that's where they've actually come to the national team program as well. But at the time, it's like everyone was spread out. Like you didn't really have a good estimate of who was really playing hockey, and like compared to now, where you can really see like you know Sunday mornings, Saturday mornings when there's we have this learn to play program where where beginners can skate and stuff, and you see like so many kids are like going. So it's really like it's nice to see like the increase in youth, but I really honestly think that there can be more because I
Mm,
mean if you find ways through sponsorships and whatnot to make hockey more accessible, whether it be through cheaper ice time or like
yeah.
free gear. I don't know, like there can be stuff that can still be done to grow the sport more because it really is like I
Yeah.
think the biggest barrier is the expense.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually gonna. That's a good point because I mean, it's. I think that's why basketball thrives a lot. You just need a ball, and then you have hoops like almost in every corner. So, there are
Yeah,
a lot of sports that with equipment. You add the rink pa. That's like
yeah,
how many. There are very few places that you can actually play. Okay.
yeah.
I guess before we go to the last segment, I wanted to ask, parang what how would you suggest to both young people and even older people that want to learn the sport, get into the sport? How do you suggest that they start? I mean, I guess based from your experience when you were younger, what would you have done differently? And also, parang um, both in the sense of like, okay, when this whole thing is back to normal, what should they try to do? But also like as early as now, while they're still in the pandemic, what can they do to learn how to play?
Yeah, so when I think of that question, I sort of I think a lot of my older brother who was my teammate on the team. I think the things that he did as a kid were good in terms of like hockey IQ. I think that's really like it's so crucial because you can have like less skill than another player but still do better than him because you just know how to play smarter.
Mm-mm.
And what he did growing up was he watched a lot of hockey games, like, and you don't just watch like all the tricks and all the
Yeah.
sort of special skills. You got to watch like, okay, what does this guy in this do in this situation? What's the best place I can put myself in? But yeah, really being like a student of the game is so important with hockey because um, if you can like dangle around everyone, if you can do all these tricks around everyone, like that's good. That's fine, but it's not gonna take you to that next level.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
really being a student of the game.
Okay. Before we end, I always have this segment that I call change court, change sport. So it's kind of like my way of saying, okay, we have all these amazing athletes in a lot of different sports, and I guess kind of like parang showing that just because they're interested in one sport doesn't mean they don't find interest or they don't find that they don't like other sports. So first question would be um, whether right now or in the future, like when we're older, what if there is any other sport that is there any other sport that you have wanted to try, um even just for fun?
So this is a sport that I've never like tried ever
Yeah.
before. No, like honestly, it's a pretty basic sport, but I've never tried like playing real golf, like playing 18
Okay.
holes or something. I definitely want to try
Yeah,
that. I'm just too lazy to do all the walking and stuff,
yeah.
you know. But yeah, it
But
sounds
that's
fun, man.
yeah, but okay, coming from hockey, you're kind of gonna be like what do you call who's that? You say Happy Gilmore. We watch that.
Yeah, no, everyone says that though. Like it's gonna be like sort of like an easy transition just because the
Yeah,
movements are
yeah.
similar, but it's different. Eh. Like I see how they're moving, and it's like it seems like
Yeah.
it'd be hard for it. Like I'll give credit to golf players. Like it looks like a hard sport for it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But I mean,
Yeah,
like you have the stick movement down, I guess, at least, or not even actually.
it's like it's a similar motion for sure, but it's still different.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, last one in the Philippines. who would you say is your favorite athlete, but from a different sport, so not in hockey?
Favorite Filipino athlete? That's a tough one. Just because I don't know a lot. Sorry. You know, I'll just say honestly, Harvey.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
from the few that I know, it's Harvey because I saw how he worked. You know, I saw his work ethic throughout high school, and you know how he plays in college. Like he's a beast, dude. Like
Yeah, dude. And
yeah,
he's
he's
beasting
intense.
even now. Have you seen him?
Yeah, dude.
He
He's
was
really good
playing.
for
He
it.
was, yeah.
He's
I
going
mean, I think
to
that's thanks.
Thailand,
Sorry, go
right?
ahead.
He's going to play
Um,
pro in Thailand. Am I correct in
that's
saying that?
the that's the. I don't think it's like an official thing yet. I think that's the plan ideally, but obviously the pandemic's kind of like
Yeah.
delaying everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I guess do you have like I guess a last message to aspiring hockey players and the Philippine national hockey fans?
Uh yeah, I mean just, continue to support the sport, continue to support the sport. Um yeah, it's the community is still pretty small and any support would do. We appreciate anyone who was interested to even join, like join practice, not practices of national team, but to join, in learning to play hockey. We welcome anyone with open arms. The hockey community is small and tight knit, but we're definitely welcoming.
All
Yeah,
right. So thank you again, Havs. That was once again Javi Cadiz
yeah,
for ice hockey.
yep. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Sports Season podcast. If you guys have suggestions for athletes or sports that you want to hear and learn more about, please let us know below in the comments. Also, if you haven't, please do subscribe to us on YouTube. We are Sports Season. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Spotify. Thanks again. We'll see you on the next episode of